I, female, 50, had one son when I was a teenager. His name is Josh, male, 33, and our relationship is super complicated. I gave him up for adoption then because the father immediately skipped town and I wasn't ready to raise a child. I ended up emancipating myself from my parents for the way they treated and shamed me during my pregnancy and built a new life all by myself. Their attitudes and lack of help when I needed it most led to irreparable damage, and I have ensured that my parents can never contact me again. Since then, I did build a life for myself and ended up working in the tech field as a pretty successful engineer. I never married or had a long-term relationship, but honestly, that works for me. With the kind of emotional baggage I have, I'm pretty self-aware about not letting people get close to me. The one thing I had hoped for as I got older was to be able to connect with my son, but it seemed like an impossibility. I had known the adoptive family from my second trimester, and I wrote a letter to my son, which was to go to him when he was 18. It would have the information he needed to find me and also give him the agency to reach out to me when he was ready. I also asked the parents to not hide the fact that he was adopted, and I wanted my son to have the best life he could. The year he was supposed to turn 18, I got no response. Same thing next year. Eventually, I made peace with the fact that my son might not want anything to do with me. If I was in his shoes, I could have felt the same way. However, when I turned 40, I got a text from an unknown number with the details of my son's birth. It was Joshua, and he wanted to meet up. Since then, I've spent 10 years creating a relationship with my son. He's grown into an amazingly talented artist, and I've been able to build a bond with him and his adoptive parents. I feel connected to the three of them, and it genuinely feels like I have a family now. 2 years ago, though, Josh started dating a girl he met during a music tour, Penny. Penny and I seemed to get off on the wrong foot, and it only got worse from there. I didn't have any clear reason to dislike her enough to raise my voice, but there was just a gut feeling that made me queasy. Some things that I do objectively think are bad are how bad Penny is with money. She makes impulse purchases and constantly wants more and more money to upgrade her lifestyle. Now, more power to her, but Josh is like the exact opposite. He's in a small band and has a few things he sells on Etsy, along with working as a session artist, and that's enough for him. Finances are a serious conversation for a couple to have, but it seems that it hasn't happened for them. Another thing is that Penny seems to really dislike me for abandoning Josh and always seems to subtly imply that I am a bad person. Now, I don't like this because it's like she's inserting her own prejudice over what my son thinks and has come to terms with. I also feel like she doesn't understand the complexity of the situation and how hard both I and my son work to build a relationship with each other. These things are only things I've noticed, and Josh's adoptive parents seem to love Penny. So I've always felt insecure about raising these concerns. Cut to 6 months ago. Josh announced his engagement with Penny, and he was super stoked about it. It was amazing to see him so happy, and I wanted to contribute to it by giving him a house. Now, since I've stayed single and made a bunch of good investment choices in real estate, I have a lot of savings. I don't see any point in holding on to all this money when I die, though, so I wanted to help Josh with a new start to his life. Despite my misgivings about Penny, I wanted to see him happy. However, I would transfer the house in Josh's name alone as a gift and wanted to make clear that it should only be his name on the deed. I wasn't going to hide it from anyone, and I said that it was my choice, and both Josh and his parents found this to be reasonable. I mean, Penny would still live there, right? Wrong. She didn't like this one bit, but I guess the combined reasoning of Josh and her in-laws made her agree to it, at least in front of them. Behind their backs, Penny has been absolutely horrendous to me ever since my son got engaged to her. She had been building up a rapport with me and making it seem to everyone else that she was trying to get to know me better. I won't lie, even though I felt like she was genuinely putting in an effort and reconsidering my judgment of her. But then she snapped one day and revealed everything she wanted. We had gone out for brunch together, and Penny casually mentioned the idea of having kids with Josh. Then she said, I don't know if I would be comfortable with you around them, OP. They're my kids too, and you do have a history of abandoning people. What if they get too emotionally attached to you and you suddenly decide you don't want this family anymore? That was the most hurtful thing I had ever heard. And I should immediately have fought back and cussed her out, but she made it seem like I was the bad guy. Then Penny brings up the house. She said, maybe if I knew you trusted me, maybe if you thought of me and Josh as equal owners, like with the house, I would know you're here for good. I cut brunch short and she left while sweetly telling me to think about it. Later on, I got a long text from her repeating the things she had said and presenting it as an ultimatum. I spoke to some of my friends about it, and they think this is enough of a red flag for me to tell my son, so I did. He called me after I sent him a screenshot of the text messages and told him about everything happening. He felt hurt that I hadn't opened up to him beforehand and said he'll have a serious talk with Penny. Not long after, I had Penny call me and scream at me for lying to Josh. He asked for space and time to reconsider their relationship and was staying with his parents. I genuinely don't think I'm TA, but some of my other friends are on the fence after hearing how the conversation went at brunch. To them, it does seem like Penny was genuinely worried for her family unit and wanted to make sure I was committed to both of them. Do you guys think that was the case? Update 1. Okay, after reading through your comments, I've realized that my friends may not be the best at putting their prejudices away. I think the fact that I did give up Josh is something that they judge me for, and that's why they've empathized with Penny. I think I'll cut them out of my life if they can't accept me for me. As for Josh and Penny, their relationship is over, but Penny has not accepted it with grace at all. Apparently, the fact that Josh was adopted wasn't something his extended circle knew, but Penny has been spilling his secret to everyone and making it into a whole point of contention. She's made me out to be this heartless monster, and Josh to be a person who's so troubled with mommy issues that he'll listen to any manipulative thing I say. Some people in his friend group have simply accepted her at face value, and Penny's riding off of pity right now. It's affected my son mentally, and he's lost a lot of friends because he doesn't want to bitch about Penny like she is about him. That's just how he is as a person. It definitely frustrates me, and I'm going to go and speak to Josh's adoptive parents and see if we can do anything about Penny's behavior. Update 2. Things just got a lot worse. I don't know what's going on with this girl, but now Penny is trying to mess up Josh's career. She reached out to a few mutual friends of theirs who work in studios and the music industry and claimed that Josh was straight up emotionally abusive and mentally unstable. Gossip spread like wildfire, and a lot of my son's contracts and gigs just dried up. It's getting tough for him to keep up with bills, and when he reached out to Penny and asked her to stop doing what she's doing, she just ghosted him. At this point, me and Josh's adoptive parents are ready to fight fire with fire, even if he isn't. We spoke to a lawyer, and he said there's a reasonable amount of evidence to file for defamation and get Penny to pay for the financial damages caused by her outright lies. We spoke to our son about it first, and he's conceded to taking this route because Nothing else seems to be working. Update 3. After we filed a case, Penny finally broke radio silence. Surprise, surprise. She promised to publicly take back everything she said if we just dropped the case because she can't afford a lawyer and the issues that come with it. I wanted to keep hounding her, but Josh and his adopted parents are okay with that because it brings things back to normalcy for him. I accepted that and we waited for Penny to tell everyone she was in the wrong before dropping charges. I'm still giving the house to my son, and he's going to live alone and focus on himself and his career for a while now. I think this relationship has taken a toll on him, but he's taking it all in his stride and trying to get back to his old cheery self. I'm still angry at that bitch, Penny, but I need to let it go. She's never going to come near my son again. After Penny took back everything she said, most of her friends turned on her and sided with Josh. They've apologized to him, but he isn't exactly running back to the same people who dropped him ASAP. His circle now is much smaller and more loyal than before, and thankfully, his career is on the uptick again. NTA, but you should definitely have said something about Penny first, even if it was just a gut feeling. I think you and Josh are at that point where he does respect your opinion and will give it some weight. You weren't just irrationally mean to his fiancée and had valid concerns. NTA. She lost her husband-to-be just to try and get a free house, LOL. Kudos to you for rebuilding a relationship with your bio son and also his parents. That relationship and trust you all have outweighs Penny by a long shot. Next story. I, 20, female, started baking in the quarantine as a hobby, just to pass time. Over time, my skills have significantly improved and I've started taking orders from people. Occasionally, as I'm still a student and don't have too much time to invest in it full time. However, whenever an important occasion is coming up for my loved ones, I bake them a cake for free. I do this of my own free will because it makes me happy. A week ago, it was my best friend Zia's 23rd birthday. This would be the last birthday we'd be celebrating together as I'm moving overseas shortly for further education. So I went all out and made 2 themed cakes. One of them was a huge butterscotch and caramel cake decorated with all her favorite colors, pink and white, and very fancy decorations. The other one was a lotus Biscoff cheesecake, which is her absolute favorite dessert. On the day of her birthday, we cut the cake, and she gave us all 1 slice each from the Biscoff cheesecake. Only 3 of us apart from her. Later on, she texted me that she loved the cake so much and was kind of sad that she got to only eat 3/4 of it and wanted a whole cake for herself. I told her I'd make it for her again someday. Yesterday was my father's birthday. I made 2 Lotus Biscoff cheesecakes for him. The only reason I made it was because I had made too many ingredients left over from the last time I made it, and because he doesn't like buttercream or whipped cream frosted cakes and prefers cheesecakes or sponge cakes to them. I posted the photos on my baking account on Instagram and Zia saw them. I immediately got a phone call that she wanted one of the cakes. I told her they were for my dad and I'd make another one for her later on. However, she kept insisting and wouldn't let it go. I caved in and told her to come today and pick up the cake. Obviously, I couldn't give her the entire cake. I'd made it for my dad and for the rest of the family, so I cut up 3 medium-sized slices for her and boxed them up. When Zia saw them, she immediately asked me why I hadn't packed up the whole cake for her. I explained to her that I couldn't do that because it was for my dad and the rest of the family. She started her little rant again about how she couldn't get her birthday cake to herself because she had to share with us, and how she's owed a whole cheesecake. She then asked me if I'd make her another one next week, and I told her I couldn't spend time making another cake because of my upcoming exams. This pissed her off, and she said that I don't even share a good relationship with my father, so She finds it ridiculous that I'm doing so much for him. This was a low blow and ticked me off. I told her to never expect another cake from me again. Now, I'm petty, selfish, and a bad friend. AITA? NTA, you did something nice for her. She ruined it with her entitlement. It's very normal when you have a birthday party with a birthday cake that surprisingly the guests also get some of the cake. I don't think I've ever heard of someone getting their own cake for their birthday that no one else at the party eats. If she wants another cake, she can buy herself another cake. You already went out of your way for her, giving her 3 extra slices, and she chooses to attack your relationship with your father? You're right that she should never get another cake from you again, nor another text message, phone call, hangout, etc. The best thing I think you can do for yourself here is let her entitlement ruin your friendship with her. NTA, I don't think I've seen anyone demand an entire birthday cake to themselves once they pass the age of, say, 3. Are you sure Zia isn't turning 3 instead of 23? Plus, just the audacity to see that you posted a photo of 2 cheesecakes and somehow demand one of them? Like, how did the thought not enter her head that maybe they weren't for her? If you'd made them for her, wouldn't you have tagged her, or however it works on social media? I'm old. Or texted her or otherwise told her that the cheesecakes were for her. And then doubling down on the audacity to critique, shit on your relationship with your father? That is none of her business either way. I'm legit mad for you. I'd want to make a Lotus Biscoff cheesecake, which I had to Google, and to be fair, they do look delicious. And I'd be like, oh, Zia, this one's for you. Then when she came over, I'd smash it into her face. XD. Next story. I'm 33, female. I've been friends with Charlotte, 33, female, since we were little girls. Despite being close to her and her daughter, 5, female, I don't really see her wife, Avery, 35, female, much. She doesn't get along with most of our friends with Charlotte and is a private person, which is extremely fine. Avery is a cardiologist. My mother-in-law's sister is sick, and I asked Charlotte if she could arrange an appointment for us from her wife. She called and said she had arranged it. I decided to accompany my mother-in-law and her sister to the office. It all went well, but I noticed Avery did not have her wedding ring on. During the whole visit, she did not even mention Charlotte until I said something. And everyone addressed her as doctor, while other times she insisted on Mrs. It was kind of weird to me because she always has worn it when I've seen her. Actually, the few times we were out, Avery always wore her ring and acted like it was very important to her. I don't know what was going on, but I thought as her good friend I should mention this to Charlotte. The next time I met up with her, I said I had noticed that Avery was not wearing her wedding ring at her office. She laughed and asked me what I was getting at, and I said I just wanted to mention what I had seen and I didn't mean anything. Charlotte said Avery is a very by-the-book person and never wears any jewelry in her office or at the hospital. I apologized and only said I thought it was weird that she didn't wear it and didn't mention anything about her wife despite knowing who I was. Charlotte told me she just explained and that I needed to let it go. I let it go, but she is still clearly upset. My other friends told me I should not have mentioned it and I should apologize to Charlotte. I still smell something fishy going on, but I don't know. YTA. A lot of people in the medical field don't wear their wedding rings to work. And why would she bring up her wife at your mother-in-law's appointment? It's a cardiology appointment, not a social call. None of this is remotely weird except your behavior in this situation. YTA, it's very common for a lot of people not to wear jewelry, especially rings, to work. Nothing fishy about that. Especially people who work with their hands, who don't want to get their wedding bands dirty or scratched, or people who use hand sanitizer a lot, like health workers, who don't want to ruin their rings with those chemicals. or health workers who use their hands to touch patients who don't want their rings to get caught on something. Also, the doctor was talking to a patient about her health and wanted to keep it professional, so it makes a lot of sense she didn't mention her wife, who has no connection to her patient. What did you think was going on? Do you think she was trying to come onto your mother in law's sister by not wearing her wedding ring and not talking about her wife? YTA. It's not weird for a doctor to try to keep things professional or for a doctor to not want to wear jewelry when they need to use medical equipment and focus on making sure everything is sanitary. You absolutely were implying to your friend that she should be concerned for her wife's fidelity. You admit that's what you were doing. You have nothing to support your suspicions apart from you not liking that Avery isn't more social, and you should stay out of it. Stay tuned for more stories from Argo Relationships.